Well, hello there. I'm Jane Hogan, the wellness engineer. Today, we're going to talk about the healing power of storytelling. This show is Wellness by Design, and it's all about helping people achieve wellness, not by just reacting to the world around them, but by intentionally designing a life that's going to promote healing and promote wellness. I'm really excited to welcome my guest today, Lisa Harris, a storyteller, and she teaches storytelling. Welcome, Lisa.
Hello, Jane. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, I'm thrilled to have you here because there's a really a nice therapeutic benefit to storytelling, and it's people don't necessarily think of that as a tool that's going to help them. So I want to just tell people a little bit about you, Lisa. So I'm going to read your bio. Lisa Harris is an author, speaker, narrative coach, and the founder of Lisa Harris and Company, a personal development business. Lisa's entrepreneurial journey began in 2016 after publishing her poetry book, Unveiled Beauty, Handwritten Stories from a Poetic Heart. Prior to that, she spent more than 18 years in leadership roles working for and with many Fortune 500 companies. Today, Lisa successfully guides women on their personal growth and empowerment journeys through the lens of their own life stories. Lisa is in her fifth year producing Unveiled Beauty events, narrative coaching, and speaking. Beautiful, beautiful, Lisa. Love this work that you're doing in the world.
Thank you so much. I'm like, oh, that's a pretty nice bio. Is that me?
That is you, my dear. Yes, yes.
Sometimes
So
we surprise ourselves.
we do. When you're kind of going through your day and not really thinking about all these things that you've done, but you've done a lot. So how did you get into this kind of work, Lisa?
Yeah, crazy, right? Well, as you mentioned in my bio, I spent almost 20 years in corporate America. My professional background before entrepreneurship was corporate retail buying and retail business development. So I had a wonderful career doing that. And like many women, there was a challenge in my life as it related to raising my children.
Mm.
And that's when things started. I started, reflecting on my life and what I wanted to do and how I wanted to be there for my kids. And through that journey came my book. So it all started with my poetry book. That was the vessel to the narrative coaching work that I do today. And I often say that she's back there. You can see her. She was one of my angels. She brought me to all the women who needed the space that I've created. So, as I mentioned in 2016, I published my first book, and I thought I was going to do the author thing. For those of you out there who are authors and entrepreneurs, I thought I was going to go out there and do my interviews and my book signings and speak and all of those fun things. And I started to do that. But as I started sharing my poetry, which was very raw and vulnerable, women started sharing with me. And it was in that moment that I knew that I wanted to create a space and I wanted to be able to help women to just unveil those stories, all those things that they carry inside, to help them find a way to release that and to find healing through it. So that's how I really started. It was back in 2017 where I started storytelling events. And it's really evolved since then to my coaching business, where I work with women intimately on healing through the stories prior to sharing them.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh, amazing journey. So you it's your so many times we have these challenges in life, right? We have these major challenges that come along that either either they take us down or we rise above it by seeing the gifts that are in it and allowing ourselves to move in a new direction. And that happened to me. It happens to a lot of people. But this is so beautiful that you're providing a way for women to speak their truth, because a lot of times I honestly feel in a lot of the people that I work with now that it is this story that we carry inside ourselves, sometimes of a lot of hurt or negative things that happened in our lives. We hang on to that story, and that's what makes us ill.
Yes.
Yes. You see this too?
Yes, and I've heard that many, many times with the women that I do am in connection with in the health and wellness field. Is it's not only the mental health that this kind of work is helpful for women as a tool, which we can talk about in a minute, but it really is holding on to all of that actually physically is not good for our bodies. And it's showing up in many different ways um, physically, which is not my area of expertise, but I know that to be true with the many women that I work with who
Mhm.
are in the field. Yeah.
Mhm. And if anyone is watching or watching now live or watching the replay and you want to put anything in the comments to ask us, just go ahead and do that. Or if you've got an experience to share where you know this to be true, that a story that you carry inside or something that happens to you has manifested out as something physical. I know for me, so many people that I talk to, I end up working with a lot of people with autoimmune issues, and
Yeah.
very often they've had a stressful event that has triggered this autoimmunity. It's probably been simmering for a long time, but it seems like there's this like a tipping point that causes this to happen.
Yeah.
So, what's beautiful about the work that you're doing, Lisa, is hopefully, with some people, they're getting the opportunity to release that before it manifests as an illness, or even if they've already got an illness like I had, for example, like my clients, it gives them a way to release those emotions, because we hold emotions or vibrations in our body, and we hold that in our body. We need a way to release it. And there's lots of different ways, but what you're doing is providing this way, which is through telling stories. So let's hear a little bit more about how you do this process. How
Yeah, yeah. Well, I wanted to back up just a little bit to provide women a little bit of information on my specific journey as it relates to storytelling. So,
Sure.
as I mentioned, I came to this space because I recognized women really needed a space to share. But what happened for me is I actually ended up sharing my personal story on my very own stage when a woman backed out. And it wasn't until that moment that I actually recognized the power that giving your story a voice can provide you. And when I shared the stage and shared my story, so much released from my body and from my heart. And I felt like I could, for the first time, really authentically stand in who I was and that people could see me for me. And I think that's really powerful. And so for me, it was that moment when it actually really touched my heart and I was able to experience that I knew that this was the work that I wanted to do. So now as I work with women, we go through the 7-day course that I have, and it's really about walking through your entire life timeline, walking through your life. Because what I've recognized in the women that I work with, and I've worked with hundreds of women now, many use our sessions to go on to create blogs and podcasts, and some women are interested in writing their memoir, a lot of different things, sharing their stories in communities and public schools. But what I've really learned from this work that I do is we need to look at our life in all of its beauty. And all of its beauty includes those dark moments, includes those challenges. We have to acknowledge that they exist. We have to see them, but we can't sit with them. But we need to
Mhm.
see them enough to acknowledge them and then be able to layer on all the other beauty that exists in our life, right? And so I walk with women through their life timeline, and we start to pull out all these different beautiful pieces so that they can acknowledge the challenges, they can speak to that, but they can move forward. And so oftentimes when we go, and for many people, if you've been through something very traumatic and intense tragedy in your life, seeking therapy is so important and so therapeutic, but it's also important to remember we need to move forward and we can't sit in that darkness. So how do we do that? And this life timeline and sitting with me in this work gives women the tools to be able to see those other pieces in their life and to move forward. And then we start to write. Because when you hold all of this in your memories and you journal it, that's step one. But when you actually write it, you're starting to make sense of all of those emotions and all of those thoughts. You're able to actually make sense of it because you're trying to communicate it out in some way. And so there's so much healing and new perspectives that come out of the writing process. And then the voice. If you're able to courageously share your voice, it's a gift to yourself and it's a gift to so many others who are ready and willing to hear it. And so it's a process. I start with women with working on their timeline, but if they want to work with me on writing stories, we continue on the process. But there's so many ways and levels of healing and growing through just owning your story and finding peace with it, because we can't change the past. We can't change the challenges that may have been presented to us, but we can work through them. And writing is such a powerful way to do it.
It is. It is. And I like that you said this, you can't change the past. We can't, but we can also have a feeling about it that it wasn't like it all happened for a reason. It's all part of who we are today, and a beautiful part. And we had a comment from Andrea who's watching. She said, being vulnerable in your journey is so freeing. And I think really that's what it's about, isn't it? What you're doing, it's freeing people from the feeling that heavy weight of the past and regret or resentment or hurt.
Yeah.
When it comes out, and when we speak it, I think there is something really powerful about speaking it, as you said, that this is our vibration out, and one of our vibrations out in the world, right, is our voice. And when we can let this go, we are like literally letting it go. And it is so freeing, Andrea. So thank you so much for that comment and pointing it out.
Yes, I love that. And we talk a lot about vulnerability on my platform, the events that I do and the courses and intimate work that I do with women. And one of the comments I've gotten from some of the clients that I've worked with is that I've provided a space for women to practice being vulnerable.
Yes.
We talk about vulnerability and authenticity, and you should do this and you should do that. Well, where am I going to practice that? Because I'm going to stumble. Right? It's going to come out messy, and me being vulnerable isn't going to always look so pretty. So where can I just practice that and have somebody not judge me for, maybe I do feel like I made some mistakes, but I need to share that. I need to work through it. I want a community to figure out how to be vulnerable and how to do that. So, we also do that. That's, just a beautiful part of the work that I do, is giving women that space to just be. And be isn't always so perfect.
Yeah. The practice element, that is so important because, we're not just going to go from everything's in my head to standing up on a stage and speaking in front of, people. Right. And not that that's even an end point necessarily. Right. But just to get it out, but having that space, as you said, to be able to do that in a safe environment where they're not going to be judged, where there's a lot of support and love. So important.
Yeah.
So how do you create that space?
Oh, goodness. I think, the women who follow me, whether it's on social media or who live here in the Twin Cities, because I'm in the Twin Cities in Minneapolis, who have gone to live events in the past, I do my best to practice what I preach, right? I include all kinds of women, different ethnicities from different places with different careers, different social economic positions, different ages. I like embracing diversity. I think it's such a beautiful thing. And I share myself. And so, and the women in the space really do understand at all of my events, whether they're online or not, I say right away in the beginning, this is a judgment-free space. We're here to often offer love and grace in the hour or 3 hours that we're spending together.
Mhm.
If you do nothing, if you can't take this forward into your day, please make this space available for that. And so I think the women who work with me and are in space with me, they understand that, and I try to practice that. So over time, most women have just been comfortable in the spaces I've created. So I feel very responsible and honored to share that space with women.
I think that's beautiful. And Andrea shared another comment too. She said, well, thank you for saying it's a gift to those who want to hear it. And I think it is a gift hearing other people's stories and building compassion, and understanding too that other people may be going through something similar to what you've gone through, or you're going through what other people have gone through.
Yeah.
There's comfort in knowing that people understand, and that people uh, and there's people to support it. So yeah, I really love this. What do you think of that, saying it's a gift? Have you heard this
Yeah.
in your?
Yes, I love that. I think our stories are a gift to ourselves and to others. And that's one thing I wanted to say as well when we were talking about vulnerability, is I also want people to understand what we have in our hearts and our souls, our bodies and our mind. It is a gift, right? And so anytime you choose to share it with others in any way, and even when I talk to my young teenage daughter, our bodies, our mind, our hearts, our voice, all of that is a gift, and is the gift I believe that God gave us. And so when we choose to share that, those who hear it should also be recognizing that they're being presented with a gift. And so when we talk about vulnerability, it's important to understand that you don't have to give it all away. Vulnerability doesn't mean I give it all away to anybody who wants to hear it, all the pieces of me. It means that you're being authentic and you're sharing where you feel safe and where you feel like you need growth. And you don't have to give it all away. You can give a gift that isn't stripping yourself of everything. So it's important for women when they go through my programs to understand that you have control of your story and your journey. For one woman today may be sharing all the intimate pieces that broke her down, but for another woman, maybe it's only sharing that one piece today, because that's where she feels safe and ready to step into vulnerability. So I think that's also important too. And I don't think we tell women enough that they have control of all of those pieces. Now the world's telling us to be vulnerable. No, we don't have to give it all away. We have control of every part of us, and it is a gift. And now I feel like I'm in a soapbox.
You're passionate about this. Yeah, that's a really good point, and it must be something that you really need to make sure that your participants understand, because they might, so they don't think, well, I got to come in and tell everything, right? I just,
Yeah.
they can still set whatever boundaries they want, but the space is there for however much they want to
Yeah,
share.
absolutely. That's
I
very
love that.
important.
So, I know that you talked about narrative therapy. So is this a thing? Like, is this like a credential people can get, or is it like, what is narrative therapy?
Yeah, thank you for bringing it up. It was new to me 2 years ago. And I call myself a narrative coach because I'm not a licensed therapist. But years ago, people had said to me, wow, Lisa, you're doing narrative therapy. And I thought to myself, what's that? I've never heard of it. And when they had approached me, at that moment, I had reached out to somebody here in the Twin Cities who does narrative therapy. And he is a licensed therapist and said, yes, you intuitively are actually doing narrative therapy and you didn't realize it. So it's fundamental to the work that I do. I'm currently being certified as a narrative therapist. I'll have that certification in a month.
Oh,
after 6 months of a lot of work. So I'm excited about that. But I'm not going to be presenting myself as a therapist per se. It's really the fundamental principles that therapy provides the work that I do. So narrative therapy is a newer modality within the therapy world. And most licensed therapists who do practice narrative therapy are those licensed therapists that you would go to have a bigger holistic approach to their healing tools that they provide their clients and patients. So narrative therapy really is about the therapist being your guide in life versus being an expert that's going to diagnose you with a problem and help you with a solution. They're more of your guide who's helping you to find the answers within. And within narrative therapy, they truly believe that we are our own individual people and we are the experts of our lives, and that the problems that we face aren't, we are not those problems. It is the impact of those problems on our lives. So there's nothing necessarily to diagnose when it comes to our growth and healing journey from a mental health perspective, but it's more of understanding how these things have impacted us and how we can move through them with the tools that we've already seen in our lives. We just haven't recognized them.
Mm.
So it's a really powerful, holistic approach
Yeah.
to healing. And it's changing your narrative. We often talk about reauthoring or rewriting our narrative. So one of the things that we work really hard on is, like I said earlier, your life timeline. You have all these challenging times, but you have all these other sparkling moments, all these other angels that existed along the way. But because we focus so much of our energy on these dominant stories, on these challenging times, on this illness, or on mental health or something that's really been heavy on us, we focus so much energy on it that we've forgotten our talents. We've forgotten the angels who came in and came out of our lives. We've forgotten the moments that provided us such great joy. So in narrative therapy specifically, they help you see those moments so that the challenges don't go away. Yeah. The illness might not go away, but it minimizes your existence. It minimizes space in your energy field. It just minimizes so that you can see the other sparkling moments.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I love what you said when you were talking about not being the expert and that believing the person has the solutions within them. It's very much like health coaching as well. It operates the same way, and I love it. And one of the things we did learn about in health coaching too was stories and narrative, and how we are our story, right? The story that we tell ourselves. But as you said, it's funny when they've done studies on memory, and like our memories aren't even accurate, really, right? We change stuff. So sometimes the story that we're telling ourselves may not be accurate. We may not be recognizing that we are the hero in our own story.
Absolutely.
This is something Andrea just said again. She said, we are the experts and we aren't those problems. Yeah. Amazing nugget I will keep from this session. Thank you so much for sharing. It's so sweet, Andrea. Thank you.
I love that.
So this was something I know for me, and I've worked with some of my clients as well, this concept of being the hero in your own story. Because we think about the hero, and like for me, it's like the phoenix, like rising above these challenges. Life is challenges. We do have challenges. And so seeing yourself as the hero, like meeting these challenges, overcoming the challenges, is I think a beautiful thing. And it really worked for me with my illness. And is this something that you look at as well?
Yeah, I love that. So we do talk about all the elements of stories when we're going through our timeline, and I refer to characters and all of that. But one of the things that I talk a lot about is when you are a storyteller and you actually go out there and share a story, your goal is to draw in the audience or the reader and take them on a journey. And oftentimes it's an emotional journey. in order for your audience and reader to feel that journey with you, they need to be connected to the main character or the hero, right? And so I often say in my work, they need to fall in love with you. If
Yeah.
they fall in love with you, their joys and pains will be felt closer to your joys and pains. And so what's just amazing that women don't realize is when they continue to work with me on writing their story, I'm constantly challenging them to write their story in a way that the audience is falling in love with their main character. Well, now their main character is them. So as they're writing about trying to get the audience to fall in love with them, they are actually falling more in love with themselves.
Oh, beautiful.
And they don't even realize it. And I love that.
I love that too, because we need to be in love with ourselves,
Yeah.
right? We need to be in love with ourselves. And I know for healing, physical body, emotional healing, you you need to love yourself in order to heal.
Yeah. And it's a journey.
It sounds a little like, cheesy or whatever,
I
but it's so
know.
true. It is really so true. Andre had a question. I got a question.
Yeah.
Will narrative therapy work for couples to do together?
You know what? I don't do that work, but in the group that I'm with right now, there are definitely therapists who do narrative therapy with couples. Yes, I think it's really powerful. Like I said, narrative therapy really focuses on understanding how you're telling your own story. And so they work with them individually and collectively on the story that they're telling.
Okay.
And to highlight, again, the more light stories, the more happy moments. So in a couples therapy, that therapist is going to help you and your partner find those moments when you actually were very much connected or your values were very much connected, and to help enrich that story, and understand why those other pieces in the marriage that aren't serving the marriage or the relationship, why those stories continue to be so dominant when there's other pieces that are powerful in your relationship. So yeah, there's definitely therapists out there that do that work.
I would say, if you talk about with your work, you write a story and you fall more in love with yourself. And I would think that a similar process, if the couples, I'm not expert, but if the couples are both willing to do that, then they can fall more in love with each other.
Well, what's interesting now that Andrea asked that question is, in my course, I actually give women I give them several ways to approach their life timeline. And one of the ways they can approach it is on relationships. Most of the women who've gone through my program have approached it, actually mother-daughter relationships has come up quite a bit. So I say, if you want to approach this from a relationship standpoint, go through your life and identify like the high and low points, things that have impacted your relationship. We go through this whole process, right? But they look at it purely from that relationship, from when they were young and then started, to where it is now or wherever that relationship began. So I think what could be really powerful is the daughter works on hers timeline, the mother works on her timeline, and then they come together and see, are they highlighting the same moments or not, and why not? And they can build a discussion. So in my world, since I mostly work with women, that's something that could happen, could be a possibility. So I don't see why it couldn't, there couldn't be work like that out there for couples.
Great question. Thank you, Andre.
Yeah.
Okay, we're really coming up to time now.
Yeah.
We're going to be over time. This has gone so quickly. So I always ask this question. What's one action someone could take today to improve their health? One thing. What would you?
One thing. I love that question. I invite people to work on their personal invocation, and I could share a link with you. I offer a free download where people can do that on their own. And it's basically a personal prayer, a personal affirmation that you write for yourself. And it's a first step in changing your own personal narrative. So I think that's a great step. And then I think I said to somebody, look for your angels.
Look for
Look
your
for your
angel.
angels.
Love that.
They're out
Love that
there.
so much. Okay, Lisa, this has been fabulous. So where can people get in touch with you? Where's the best place for people to find you? I've shared some links already with your website.
Awesome.
And also, so it's Lisa Harris and andco.com. And then I've also shared your Facebook and Instagram handles. I don't know if I had a link to that gift that you mentioned.
Oh, perfect. I will send that to you.
Okay.
So you can add it to everything.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's everything. You can find me on social media on Facebook and Instagram, and Jane has my website. That's a great place. If you're looking for speaking or workshops or anything that's leans a little bit more corporate and business, you can definitely find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active in that space as well. But I think you have everything that anyone would need. And if anyone's interested in my courses, that link will be, Jane's going to provide that as well. And since, this program will be out there and shared over time, those dates will change, but it's out there.
But you do have one coming up in April, starting in April, right?
Yep. I have one on April 28th.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Lovely. Oh my gosh. This has been so beautiful, Lisa. I really love what you brought to the show today and helping people understand this whole idea of story. And maybe you're getting some people thinking about that now and thinking about how are they telling their own story. So thank you so much for that gift and all the beautiful things that you share in the world.
Thank you so much, Jane. Thank you for sharing this space with me and inviting me.
Okay. So thanks for everyone who was watching live or watching on the replay. And if you got any questions, just put them in the comments. I'm sure we would love to get in touch with you if you have and answer your questions. So thanks very much for watching and listening today. Bye.